That's the truth of it. There we go. Got all my drinks ready. I'm like a drink. You can't see, but I've got a water bottle, and I now have a thermos. I've got like my little setup that I do every day. Second breakfast. Oh, perfect. I saw someone say, "Oh, hello, welcome to this Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and it's Hunker in the Bunker Day 4. That's right, Street Street Day 4. Woohoo! Put your hands in the air like you just don't care. And I'm joined today by the wonderful Mr. Owen Jackson. Owen Jackson. Hello, sir.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you. You can see his little face. There he is. He's such a great guy. So this is Owen, live from Londinium. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, North London. Yep, everyone's still alive. I think we're all okay at the moment. It's not the zombie apocalypse yet.
Yet. Okay, good. So thank you to everyone who's watching us live, whether you be watching on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, wherever you are. Thanks very much. If you're listening to it back as a podcast, I hope you're staying well, isolated, drinking lots of water, staying healthy. All my love going out to you. Thank you to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon who supports the show and helps it so that I can do this for a living. Thanks very much. You guys are the best. So we are here today just to talk about everything. And just like Gurzy, who's just subscribed on Twitch, if you want to subscribe on Twitch, you get some cool little emoticons that you can use in other Twitch things. A picture of me as a goblin. Why you would want to use that, I could think of 1,000 reasons. 1,000 reasons, but
It's your spirit. It's your spirit animal, surely, Rob.
well, yeah. Well, if you join the chat, you are one of the hashtag Grot Gang. I feel like a YouTuber for saying that, and at the same time, I hate myself. So, like, I feel awkward, and I'm going to do makeup tutorials later. It's, all sorts is going to happen. It's going to be really.
I can't. I can't wait for that, man. Jesus.
Me either. So, Owen, if you don't know anything about Owen, let me give you my impression of Owen. I'll let him introduce himself. Do you know what? Introduce yourself, and then who are you? Where are you from? How long you been into Warhammer? Just tell me everything, babe.
Well, yeah. So Owen Jackson, that's me. I've been playing Warhammer properly now for about 2 years. And then before that, my brother and I used to collect models when we were kids, the sort of well-trodden story. But yeah, so I've been playing and meeting people in the community and just building and building, and it's become a bigger and bigger part of my life over the last couple of years. And obviously we've met and done some fun coverage and stuff together. So yeah, it's a massive part of my life now, and I wouldn't want it any different. It's yeah, it's wicked. As I'm sure all of you will agree, it's the best thing.
It's the best. I'm going to talk about my impression of it in a second. I just want to say hello to everyone. I want to say hello to Mr. Sneezy, Dexamon, Whippy Sticks. What going on? I see Undead Ben. I just want him to know that Bloodthirsters are awful. And hello, Halalex.
Take that back. Take that right back.
Take that right back. I'm so sorry. Wherever you may be watching from. Hi, Mr. Teej. Big love to you. I hope you're well. Owen, I met Owen several times, but the time that really stands out to me, or two times that really stand out to me before we started doing coverage together, was one time when he'd written out every battle plan on a piece of paper for his Sylvaneth army, which I thought was incredibly well organised and clever. And another time when he threw a tape measure at my eye when we played a game of Warhammer, which is
fake news. Fake news. You know that's not true. I saved your army. That tape measure was plunging towards your resin army, and I leapt across the table and caught it.
He's right.
The fact it had hit you in the eye and taken a big chunk out of your eyelid first is, neither here nor there. I did a good thing, man.
You did. The truth of the matter was, I'd actually helped Nathan move 2 truckloads of rubble earlier in the day, and my arms were so weak from having done real work that when I moved a tape measure, I threw it into my own eye.
It was really impressive. I've never seen anyone do anything like that before.
Same.
That was amazing.
Same. Well, if you want to watch more stupid stuff, keep tuning into the show. Hello, Gitley, by the way. Right, so yeah, I met Owen. Amazing man, and then has done the coverage, and he's so well organised. A lot of the coverage that we've done recently, I've bounced a load of ideas off Owen. Just a fantastic human being, a great hobbyist. Also, thanks Checkby for subscribing, by the way. Cheapy 777. Have you? But you are in. Only 2 years into the hobby, you've already done a whole bunch of coverage. I think you've got a great grasp of the game and where the game is at. And you're also in one of the Six Nations teams, right?
Yeah, it all comes back to Mark Wilson, the TO for Blood Tithe. I got
Who's
to know the guys.
Who's a fantastic individual.
Absolutely. And I got to know him through going to the Bad Moon and meeting some of the guys who are in the South London Legion chat. So shout out to all those guys. Fantastic group of gamers. And I met them at a Bad Moon cafe one day, and they invited me to the chat. And then through that, I got to know Mark. And there was a place came up on the Wales team for Blood Tithe. This is January last year. And I was a bit nervous, to be honest with you, because I hadn't been playing for that long, and I knew that I had my limitations. But I met, Mark Brooks, the captain, and Andy, and it was Danny Cashman was in the team at that time. And I just sort of got parachuted in as a last-minute player, and I got one win at Blood Tithe. And then from then on, the team sort of built, and I've managed to hang in there. Obviously, we've got some wicked players on the team for the Six Nations, the My Hills and Alex Bruce, Dan George. So, I'm just hanging on in there. But, I'm an organised person. I run my own business. So, bringing that set of skills to the team's really helped, I think. And, it's brilliant team spirit. We had a chat the other day. Got some wicked lists and the wicked ideas coming up for Six Nations and then ETC. So I'm just really, proud to be part of that and wear the jersey. It's cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
team as you know, Team AOS is the one, right?
Team AOS. I think Team Warhammer is the one. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the more I see it, the more I experience it, the more I think it's the future. And we've talked about that a bunch. And Team Wales. What I really want to see from Team Wales is put a mark. Team England and Team Wales have a fascinating kind of rivalry where Team England really look down on Team Wales as the B team for Team England. Right, and I'm done with that as an attitude. Yeah, I want Team Wales to rise like a meteoric dragon. That's it. Yeah, just crush, just crush. So
that is the plan. I mean, I grew up in Wales. I mean, some people said that I was overqualified for the Welsh team, seeing as I actually grew up in Wales and had a Welsh mother. But and then growing up in Wales, you play a lot of rugby, and that rugby rivalry between England and Wales, and England seen as the sort of the dominant force, and Wales are always the plucky underdogs. I think that sort of culture has bred into the AOS a little bit, and listening to Donal the other day, he was talking about how you like to create heroes and villains and stories, and I think that is a narrative. But certainly from the player base and the team spirit that we've got, I reckon that we can knock those boys off their pedestal, definitely.
Yes, that's what I like to hear. I like a bit of rivalry. That's good. I just want to say a big shout out to anyone watching on Facebook, Darren McNally or anyone. If you've not joined us before, every day, midday, while everyone's locked in, I'm going to be doing some live streams and different subjects. Today, me and Owen, Owen's written 3 lists. I'm going to put them in the chat in a moment. But Owen has written 3 lists because I'm a little bit obsessed. Maybe he's a little bit obsessed. Talking about Bloodcrushers. So that's going to be what we talk about today. I've also decided that you're in a band now called Owen and the Bloodcrushers. Scrivo, if you're watching, I want that as a piece of artwork. Just some Bloodcrushers playing some music, a bit of Owen at the front, maybe lead singer.
I think it'd be probably a bit like, you know, that kind of stage show Stomp where it's all just drums. I think it would just be a load of blood letters on Bloodcrushers beating a load of sort of brass big pans, and then I'm at the front doing a bit of freestyle, you know, sort of jazz dancing, and maybe, you know, spitting out the odd lyric. It would be very aggressive, but with witty lyrics. That would be the plan, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't hold your breath for the album. I don't think that's happening. Seeing as you came up with that about 5 minutes ago, I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, it hasn't really been thought through that well.
I think you wait. It'll be a picture quicker than you think. That's the thing that surprises me. What are the qualifying criteria for Wales? That's a great question.
Oh, that's good actually. Mark Brooks Meermouse, who's often in the chat, he can probably clarify it better. And if anyone is interested, we're still looking at for a pool of players. So I believe it's 2 years or more residency, or sort of family links going back as far as grandparents. So if you can prove that you've got Welsh blood in you, or you've lived in Wales as a resident for more than 2 years, I believe, that's the criteria.
Have you seen A Knight's Tale, the film? Great film.
No.
Okay, number one, while you're off, you should watch that because you will have the best time. Number two,
Sweet.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's got all the stuff. It's got a Queen soundtrack. It's amazing. Number two, there's a bit in it where Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein has to prove his lineage going back 3 generations, or he won't be allowed to compete. And then so he hires Chaucer to write him some fake qualifications. I feel like something similar could happen to get into Team Wales, and I'm living for it.
That sounds like the story of the miles.
I could trace my lineage back through the ages.
No, but yeah, on a serious note, then yeah, if you want to get involved, then Mark Brooks Meermouse on Twitter. We've picked up some new local players. He is very keen as a Cardiff resident to try and get more of a scene going in Firestorm games. I think historically they didn't really move over to AOS very much. There's a lot of fantasy players, but I think Mark and Alex Brooks are getting a bit more of a scene going there in Cardiff at Firestorm. So if you were interested and you were sort of in Cardiff, then there are, there's spots available. It's not a closed shop. So, yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things is also our 40k show host, Mr. Tom Layton, is also the organizer and almost de facto head of the Welsh 40k ETC, or the World's Team Championship now. So the WTC. So, like, the Wargamer is really invested in just Wales and the Welsh national teams way more than we should be located in the middle of England.
Yeah, but I think that you're like an underdog yourself, aren't you, Rob? I see you sort of like, fighting the system.
An idiot.
So I think
an idiot. Yeah. I'm just punching away.
I think that honest Wargamer being linked with Wales seems like a natural.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it. All right. Well, so hello everyone in the chat. I put Meermouse's Twitter handle in the chat, so if you guys want to check that out. It's been put in the link as well. He has put it. Lived 3 years in Wales, born in Wales, parents born in Wales, grandparents born in Wales. I will ask for proof. So you will need to prove your lineage. So watch out. Desert Sketch, as you said, I was watching a Seraphon video on YouTube. Boom, you're online. Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad. We should be online quite often. Okay, right. So I'm going to put some links in the chat while you and me start talking about why we're mainly here, which is
cool.
Impact Hits. Obviously, we've talked about it a little bit on the show this week. I've already had some nice stuff. I already read out a list yesterday or the day before. It's all going to become the same for me at some point.
That was Sava's list, right?
Yeah, but was it yours? Or,
well, kind of combo. Yeah. We basically had a couple of games at Bad Moon, and based off that, then we went away. And on the Saturday night after playing some games, then we just ended up going on a massive thought exercise on Bloodcrushers, and then that ended up being the sort of most skewed binary version, was the sort of I think it's actually one of the lists we've got here, which I've mixed things up a little bit, but it's called Gotta Crush 'Em All, which will be list 1. That kind of came out of that chat, and it is very much like the one that you talked about the other day.
Yeah, okay. I've just broken my screen, so just give me a moment, and I'll be sending that. No, not that. That's not the one. This is the one. We'll send this over. Okay, so the lists I'm going to put in the chat in a moment. Just start talking us through it, and I'll put the lists in when I'm ready.
Probably should we have a chat about just the raw scroll, the Bloodcrusher scroll? I don't know if you
please do.
So I've got my book in front of me. So yeah, essentially, I think 10 points a wound is often seen as good value in AOS. So you're looking at a unit of 3 Bloodcrushers. They've got 12 wounds on a 4-up save. And they move 8 and they bravery 10. So straight off the bat, it's a good basic profile. They don't hit very hard in combat, but the point of them and also this chat is the murderous charge ability. So after a model in this unit makes a charge move, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of that model and roll a dice. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If this unit has more than 1 model, roll to determine if mortal wounds are inflicted after each model completes its charge move, but do not allocate the mortal wounds until after all the models in that unit have moved, which is really good because people can't then go, okay, the impact hit from this one, I'll remove a model, and then you don't get an impact hit for the next model. What happens is sort of all the mortal wounds are applied at the same time, and then the models are removed. If this unit has 6 or more models when it makes a charge move, change the mortal wounds inflicted by this ability from 1 to D3. So that's why in all the lists and the conversations that we've had, then a unit of 6 Bloodcrushers on the charge, in your movement phase or into charge phase, are doing 6 D3 mortal wounds, which is sexy AF, right?
It's just crazy good. Like I talked about, it's just the volume of mortal wounds, which it's not a billion attacks, but you surpass everything that you need to surpass. You surpass the armor save, roll into wound. It's not like I've got 80 hits hitting on 3s, which is still gonna get you through a bunch to wound and other stuff. But I love it because it just negates everything. Also, if you've just got anything that's ethereal, it's just damage is gonna happen. True damage. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to Benjamin about it the other day, and it's obviously there is the ability to re-roll charges. So it's essentially I think of it as a re-rollable mortal wound bomb.
Yes.
And you don't really get that very often, right? It can't be countered, it can't be unbound. There are conditions by which it needs to happen, but also there are a few there are a few negatives in this. The base size is the issue with them. But fundamentally, it's a re-rollable mortal wound bomb, and then once that's hit, then they have a certain amount of attacks. Out of a unit of 6, you're going to get 7, what are they called? The Hellblade attacks, which you can do an additional mortal wound on. Mm-hmm. There are ways of getting rerolls in there. And then the actual crushers themselves, these sort of brass beasts, a unit of 6, you've got 18 attacks, 3s and 3s, no N1 damage. So, they don't, once they've done that hit, then they don't do much, but they do a little more. So you could, hit a unit of 20 guys.
Well, that's what's interesting about them, right? Like when you actually look at their stat profile for that output already, like, you're trying to justify it. They're underwhelming. They do little to nothing, really. Like they do do some stuff. They've got some trashy attacks, but you're just like, whatever. But you can't buff them in any way. And until they got cheaper to do the impact hits, the only reason they're viable is because of those impact hits. And that's also, we've had a question over on Facebook from a young man. He says, "Could you show us your socks, please?" It's from Mr. Darren James Watson.
Okay.
Oh, you're doing it.
Yeah, of course. You got to give the people
what they want.
So
I'm on it.
It's a grey kind of flecky option today with a Nike trainer. That's what I'm rocking today. I have got them pulled up as far as they go.
That's what I do. Why wouldn't you ever do that?
It's really good, man. Whether you're on a flight or you're just, going to the supermarket, socks up as far as they go is the key to a happy life.
Agreed. I couldn't agree with you more. Darren saying, Owen. That's definitely true.
Football!
Okay, so the impact hits are huge, but the actual output that they do is pretty minimal. after that.
They've got a couple of other abilities which I quite like. Obviously, like any kind of demon unit, if you roll a 1 on the battle shock for them, then you get a whole 1 back, which is fantastic. And also the little hornblower, he makes opposing units re-roll 1s for their battle shock. So I mean, it's again 1 in 6 chance of those things happening, but it's quite nice. But one thing that's good as well is the size of the bases. Like these boys, whilst it can be a negative in terms of getting them all in for the impact hits, the bases themselves, a unit of 6 occupies a massive amount of board space. So you can use them for board control as well, which, yeah, I mean, if you're putting 30 or 36, on the board, you can occupy the board quite a bit whilst teeing up and lining up these charges.
Yeah, they're fantastic for screening, right? Like, because like they're so cheap really for wounds, and they're not something you can just blow through, and they're not a screen that you can, unless you've got like 30 handgunners or something, they're not something that you can just clear off in the hero phase and then you can still do your movement phase. That's like, I don't mean handgunners, I mean, sorry, Halahart sort of magic levels. And even then, you might struggle a little bit to clear them. And like Owen says, and in Age of Sigmar, if you guys aren't aware, just to help everyone. Hey, Scrivo, thanks for subscribing. What up? Obviously, you can. You have to keep 3 inches away, unlike 40k. So if you're someone who only predominantly plays 40k, that 3-inch distance is actually pretty massive, because you can create these bubbles of null zone where people aren't moving into, which is quite huge. Also, big shout out to Hugh Wyeth, if I'm saying that wrong, Wyeth maybe, over on YouTube. He says to Hey Owen, you saucy sausage.
That's Hugh, one of the owners of the Bad Moon Cafe.
Wonderful man. Yeah, him and Boris, great guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're having a bit of a tough time at the moment. So all the community in London are trying to draw together and get their tills ringing, buying lots of product, because as you can imagine, numbers have really dropped on the gaming table. So if you can help out Bad Moon and Hugh and all, because they're good guys. They didn't put anyone on like 0 hours contracts. They're good employers and they want to keep their staff employed. So anyone in London or around who wants to buy some Warhammer to while away their time in isolation. I know this is a plug, but whatever, I'm doing it.
No, during this time, anything positive. Listen, like, stay at home because you're going to affect hospitals. Like, I'm not arguing with you, I'm telling you. Like, and number 2, support your local businesses where and if you can. Like, and especially your hobby businesses. This is a hobby stream, so more than anyone, make sure you support those people. So, and I've been to Bad Moon. It's a fantastic example of what I'd like a hobby space to be. It's clean, it's well organized. Like, they put on regular events. They're super involved with their own community. So it's an exemplar of a place. So if we can keep it going, then that would be great.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's the end of our public service podcast, right? So I think another thing that we must touch on with the Crushers is obviously the allegiance which they sit within. Obviously Khorne is not seen as being super top tier, and anyone who thinks that is wrong.
That's me.
Because, well, they're the most. I think they're the most. One of the most fun armies to play with, definitely.
Agree with that. I'm not that's not where my rating is going, but yeah, no, I agree. And also with the introduction of the Khorne Demon Prince, which I'm sure you maybe got one in one of your lists, they've just got better and better. Like they now can play such an incredible Khorne Demon Prince, Slaughter Priest. They can play such an incredibly fun game of movement which you wouldn't expect, which is what I would really want from a combat army. I would want their movement phase to be somehow more interactive than, I want shooting to be less mobile because it's got its mobility in its shooting, right?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. And I think the key thing with Khorne, which is just such an amazing tech piece, is the Blood Tithe table. There are more experienced and knowledgeable Khorne players in my community, people such as Ben and John in the chat, who have always talked about how good Blood Tithe is. And now that I'm playing with Khorne more, just the flexibility of people think, you say to people at the start of a battle, do you know what Blood Tithe does? And go, oh yeah, you can summon some blood letters, and it's not that. It's the table of abilities which allows you to interact in your opponent's hero phase. There's nothing better than double turning somebody, blowing up most of their army, and then finally they get to have a go after 40 minutes, and you go, okay, I'm going to spend all my blood tithe, I'm going to attack again, or I'm going to charge in your hero phase. And yeah, it's a real blood tithe. Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's not to be overlooked.
Yeah,
as part of the overall equation.
No, agreed. John Arthur Christian Kiddle over on Facebook said, "No, Owen, you are wrong. I think Khorne are the toppest. Don't worry, John. He was saying that Khorne are the toppest. Don't worry. I'm Rob, and I think that they're not the toppest. Rob's wrong.
Right, I'm hanging up, Rob. Fuck you, man."
So Blood Tithe is really good, and I saw a good example of that actually when not this year at CanCon, but last year at CanCon when we saw Khorne win the whole event, a big 200 person major, and it was the movement mechanics from the Khorne army that were engaging using the Blood Tithe. Also, big shout out to my boys, the Dwellers Below, who's just subscribed as well. Love those guys over in Australia. Hope you guys are staying safe. Big love to those dudes. So the movement is so good, and also I'm right in thinking you can also charge or fight in the combat phase.
You can charge or fight at the start of your opponent's hero phase. So the abilities that trigger from using Blood Tithe, that happens at the start of the hero phase. So either in your opponent's or your own hero phase, if you want to burn all those Blood Tithe. So yeah, for 3 Blood Tithe, you can move, or if you're within 12 inches, you can charge. So for example, some of the things that you can do, I've had Scarbrand move almost like he's got a 40-inch threat range when you factor in Blood Tithe and obviously the subsequent movement phase. So with the new Baleful Lords, I know you're not a massive fan of Bloodthirsters, but I'm going to say it anyway. Bloodthirsters, in the past, you couldn't, when you do a normal move in the hero phase, you couldn't run unless you had the 6-inch pile-in from Unfettered Fury. But now with Baleful Lords, for example, let's say Scarbrand, he can move. So you spend your 3 Blood Tithe, he moves 8. Then you roll a dice, you can run him. So potentially 14, you can obviously rig that. And then he can move another 14, and then he can charge 12, and he has a rerollable charge. So that's 2 lots of 14, 20. Yeah, that is a 40-inch threat range on Scarbrand. And so, I had a game at Bad Moon where I was playing against double Catapult, double Mortek Crawler, and I just put Scarbrand in the back corner outside of 43 inches. And then my opponent killed 2 other Bloodthirsters with the catapults, and then Scarbrand moved 40 inches and deleted 15 Kavalos Death Riders in a double activation.
Wow. That is not easy to do.
No, and he then subsequently sold the army, I think, after that. He did. I saw him at Heat 1, he was like, yeah, I sold the army after that. That was horrible. But so the thing with Khorne is, you look at it and the Bloodthirsters have 4-up saves. I thought about it last night. I think there's only one thing in the whole book which has a 3-up save. So they are sort of a bit flaky in places, but they have the ability to create such amazing dramatic moments. And I think that's why I love playing with them at the moment.
Yeah. And I also think that they don't feel like an underdog, but they feel really honest as an army.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I say, everything's either a 4-up or a 5-up save generally. So stuff dies, but then you always do have that kicker like this. Again, people who've played against Khorne or with Khorne, it's amazing. Something dies, and there's always a silver lining. All right, Blood Tithe. You've always got that thing ticking over, so it keeps you in the game even when there's only a small amount of models left. And they what you're going to get with a Khorne army. They want to kill stuff, and they know they're going to be killed back. And when everything's blown up and the dust settles, and you've got 5 models each, then that's when the game is then won in turns 4 and 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so should we look at this list, which I think I've put in the chat. Let me just I've screwed this up a bunch. No, yeah, I have. No, smashed it. There you go. So there's the link in the chat. No, it's not. I'll put it in there in a minute. So you guys carry on while I just.
There is the first one I want to start with, because we're going to escalate down from sort of a pure crusher list, and I would like to qualify this by saying that I'm no
pure
Darren Watson. I'm no Benjamin Sava. I'm no Leo.
No Smorgan. AOS Tubbs. I'm doing an interview with him yesterday. Do you know Mr. AOS Tubbs?
I don't know Tubbs. No,
So
I like him. I like the sound of him already, though.
Tubbsy is he mows gardens for a living, but he's also
Mhm.
a prodigious and phenomenal list writer based in New Zealand. Fantastic,
Okay.
fantastic guy. That's
Well, I'd like.
it's a
Does he
small
play
joke.
corn?
Yeah, he plays everything really. But I'm doing an interview with him tomorrow. I'm hoping, so it'll be fun. There's some great list writers all around the world. Is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I'm super pumped. I'm sorry, I've gone off track. I don't know why.
It's all right, man. All I
Don't
wanted
know
to
why I've
say
gone
is
off
that
track.
there's probably some holes in these lists, and there are other ways to make them more efficient or better. But this is me just throwing some crap at War Scroll Builder and seeing what comes back. But I think there's some interesting stuff in here. So yeah, I'd like to see what people think and how they could be improved.
And I'll include them in the show notes if you listen to the podcast.
So do you want me to just do a quick rundown of number one?
Please do.
So this is very much like the list from Benjamin that you talked about the other day. So this is called Gotta Crush 'Em All. So we're looking at Blades of Corn. We're going to put them in the slaughter host of the Bloodlords, and essentially we've got one hero, which is a Skullmaster Herald of Corn. He allows you to unlock all those sweet Bloodcrushers as your battle line.
Yeah, baby.
He's got the Slaughterer's Thirst as his command trait, which I believe, that gives him +4 to his movement, and he can reroll his charges because he gets impact hits as well, just the same as the Bloodcrushers. He's basically like a Bloodcrusher hero. He's got an artifact, Halo of Blood, to fight at the start of the combat phase, but that doesn't really matter. It's just mandatory. And then we get into the Crushers. So we have 9 Bloodcrushers, 9 Bloodcrushers, 6 Bloodcrushers, 6 Bloodcrushers, 6 Bloodcrushers, 6 Bloodcrushers. So let me do the maths. 6, 12, 24, 8, that's 42 Bloodcrushers, all sitting within a Blood Thunder Stampede, and there's an extra CP, and it's 1990.
All right. Oh, did you pay for an extra CP as well?
I did indeed, just because there's nothing else to spend it on, and that's it. So it's a 1-drop. All the Crushers, all the time. It's basically now it does have a few things. So the Blood Thunder Stampede is something that we haven't talked about. Let me just dig out that battalion. Fundamentally, that just creates much more efficiency with those charges. So it wraps everything up into a 1-drop, and rather than having to roll 2 up to do the D3 morsel wounds, it does them automatically.
Yes.
So you basically go in and blow things up. The 9, the reason that I've gone with some 9s now, it's difficult to get them all in, but for people playing against it, anybody that's cute and sees what the abilities are, as soon as you knock a unit from 6 down to 5 Bloodcrushers, then you knock down the mortal wound capacity massively.
Yeah, it goes from D3 per crusher down to 1 mortal wound per crusher.
Yeah. So the 9s they can sort of screen potentially, and then it almost feels a bit like that term. Was it ablative wounds? You've got those ablative wounds in there which allow you to keep the efficiency. So I would envisage the 9s being screens early game, and then the 6s punching through. But yeah, that's just, as I say, all the Crushers. I think I would love it if you could go MSU. I'd love it if it was 3 or more gave you the D3, because I can imagine little packs of these going around would almost feel a little bit like sort of chunky eels, slow chunky eels.
Yeah.
But I do think that takes up a hell of a lot of board space. Even one unit of 6 strung across could hold, I believe they could probably hold both back objectives, say on a Scorched Earth or something like that.
That's
and
so much board space.
It's insane, right? You could probably, playing Living City, you just go, yeah, screw you, mate. Your stuff's coming on the back of your board edge because it's not going anywhere else.
The biggest problem, and I've written this list a few times, and this is why after writing the list a few times, I did this announced on the show the other day. I was like, if you have impact hits armies or armies that do damage in the movement phase, I want to hear about them. Is just no retreat and charge. That's all I desperately want is retreat and charge, because once you get locked into that combat, it's good. But I also love the idea of doing, if you get 2 blocks of 9 in, which is going to be tough, but if you could into, let's say, some Hearthguard Berserkers,
Yep.
then that's 36 mortal wounds before you even start rolling attacks.
Yeah, they just want to hug those little ginger guys, don't they? There's just these demons. They just want to make friends.
They're just
Like,
nutting them. That's all they're just like. Oh, see you, wee lad. Fuck ye.
give us a hug, you bastard.
This is a Scottish kiss. Fuck ye. I don't know if that's right. I've been watching those Outlander recently with the girlfriend, so I'm not really sure if that's. I'm sorry about that.
From the realm of I don't know, Glasgow or something.
So just going to see what the guys in the chat are saying. Big love to all of you, and I hope you're well. Tom has said has Owen mentioned he's never got any impact hits off yet. I think is that a lie? Is that not true?
That's a stone cold lie.
Stone cold.
I blew up quite a bit of his army, and it didn't matter anyway because I one-shotted his Frostlord on Stonehorn with the Bloodthirster, which was great. So
good.
Yeah, he needs to get back in his box.
Apparently, your naming convention for your list is fantastic. So great work there. And then, so Josh Griffiths has got some love here. He says, you know what's better than Bloodcrushers? Morgas. I really want to hear about that. Morgas, I love Morgas Life. You don't really talk about that. I know you're also an OBR player, and I know we're talking Bloodcrushers in a minute. But do you know what I love, and no one talks enough about, is Stalkers in OCR Bone Reapers.
Yeah. If they had 3 wounds, and you could bring a whole one back when you healed stuff up.
You'd rather have one less wound?
I'd rather have one less wound and be able to bring a whole one back, because the fact they've got 4 wounds, it just kills them for me. I know Speckles really likes them, and he's had them. You know, he's had fun with them, and they are blenders. I think you can get them to -4, at least -3, maybe even -4 end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like them, but I just think the Death Riders and the Mortek are just so much more efficient. But
agreed.
Yeah.
There's a War Squad battalion with the Harbingers, so the Morgas and the Stalkers in, and I'm into it. Is it good? No, but I'm into it because it's something janky and weird, like, you know.
It gives you a scout move, I believe, as well. It gives you a pre-game move.
It does in death, which is fairly rare. So Tim Martin says, gotta crush them, but I dropped 6 from a DP of Khorne with a Crimson Crown, switch it to Reapers. I think we've got some more lists coming up, Tim Martin, if that helps you out. John Arthur Christian says, a block of 12 charging in the hero phase doing 12 D3 mortal wounds is amazing, I must say. And then charging again in the charge phase. So that unit of 9 who's doing 18 mortal wounds is doing 36 mortal wounds on its own, just running around, right?
The potential is sexy, right? I know the conditions have to be perfect, but you know, it's super cool. Should we talk about the next one, which is a sort of a slight departure, but it keeps the same core idea?
Please do. I just want to say a big shout out to Iron Arc in the chat. Good morning from New York City. Hope you're staying safe and well. And as a school teacher, I'm looking forward to when school shut down here. I could paint models and teach class while wearing nothing but a pair of jocks. That's from one of my favourite comedians over in Australia, Adam, a former CanCon winner. It said that he won CanCon 3 years ago and then elected not to take any competitive lists to the rest of the CanCon events to give everyone else a chance. That's what it said. He's also really funny, but a bit like in the way that Australians are, where they're a bit of a twat. Like, but it's really
maybe my ancestors are from Australia.
Mine too. Or somehow all my ancestors escaped the boat that got sent over. I don't know which.
Swam back. So
go on.
No, you're driving this bus.
No, I just wanted to say that Mr. Sneezy apparently ran the list we just talked about at BrisCon, talking about all the Bloodcrushers, and I need to see it. If you've got any pictures, or let us know how the games went, I'd love to hear about it as we continue talking. Sorry, so the next list is called Hold 'em and Crush 'em?
Nah, that's going to be the third one. We're going to go for Thirsting to Crush.
Okay, Thirsting to Crush. Okay, all right, yeah, I see it. Yeah.
So Darren's going to be happy with this because we're from the mortal realm of Hish.
Oh, shit, son. I know what's happening next.
Yeah, we're not taking Luminary Rod. Unsurprisingly, we've not taken Luminary Rod. So we've got we're inside Baleful Lords this time because we've got some Bloodthirsters. We've got a Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage with the Black Brass Crown. We've got a Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster with the Crimson Crown, and then once more the Skullmaster Herald of Khorne with the Aether Quartz Brooch, and then we have 3 units of 6 Bloodcrushers, 3 units of 5 Fleshhounds, and that sits within Tyrants of Blood and the Blood Thunder Stampede again.
So is that a 2-drop?
That is a 2-drop, and this is what I've actually played. This is the one list that I've played a couple of times while I sort of get everything built up. So yeah, this is balanced. I think going back to the idea that Blood Tithe being this amazing resource that we lean into. I know that you're not a huge fan of the Thirsters, but essentially I see them very much as Blood Tithe creation units. They're going to blow things up. They're finally going to get blown up, and when all settles down again, you should have a nice pile of Blood Tithe to use for summoning and for our hero phase charges. So this sets up nicely because you've got the 3 units of Fleshhounds, which give the screening so the Crushers can't be tagged. And then Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster, that essentially buddies up and runs around with the Insensate. So the Crimson Crown allows him to use his War Scroll command ability once per battle round for free, so he's basically giving full reroll hits to the Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage, which has a +1 to his save from Baleful Lords. And then the reason that we're farming the CP is just to keep spamming out that and keep them alive as long as possible. Plus, the command ability for Baleful Lords is very much like a knight stratagem for 40k, in that it allows a Bloodthirster to fight its top bracket for in the combat phase. So there's lots of tricks you can do with that in terms of the way that you activate your units. Tom in the chat, who was saying, how many Bloodcrusher attacks how many impact hits did I get? The way in which I was able to blow up his Frostlord on Stonehorn, which wasn't ethereal, which is a mistake. But
huge mistake, Tom. What the hell?
I had the Wrath of Khorne and I had the Insensate Rage. The Insensate Rage got charged by the Frostlord and took 5 mortal wounds on the charge. So it was down a couple of brackets on its big booms, the 8-inch aura booms. So I was able to spend a CP to give the Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster full rerolls to hit, and that was essentially a bait so that he attacked that with his Iron Guts, which had come in, and that then allowed me to activate the Insensate Rage, spend the CP, get it up to top bracket, and then he did 4 mortal wounds to everything and did 15 damage to the Frostlord on Stonehorn, and boom,
wow,
took it off.
Can you just remind me again what the Crimson Crown does, because every Khorne player talks about it and I constantly forget.
The Crimson Crown allows you to use their War Scroll ability once per battle round for free.
Nice.
So essentially, it's 5 free CP. If that War Scroll command ability is something that you constantly want to do. Now, there is an argument to put the Crimson Crown on the Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage, because what his command ability is a 16-inch wholly within bubble of reroll charges, which synergizes beautifully in with all the Crushers. And again, another tweak you could do is, rather than taking the Blood Thunder Stampede to give the automatic mortals, you could take a Murder Host and perhaps drop some of the Fleshhounds, and that gives you +2 to charge. So, a big bubble around that. The Insensate Rage and the Wrath of Khorne, they are this little buddy up pair which can go and kill stuff, but I see them almost as like buff pieces to get the Crushers in. So rerollable charges at +2 is really going to get those Crushers in both the hero phase and the charge phase. Okay. So that's the idea there.
All right, okay, that's a good one. I really like that. I like that it's a 2-drop as well. And if you look, like, one of the things, if you look at the list, which I've put in the chat, I'll put it in the chat one more time, is it's 136 wounds, and it's all got a 4-up save. Fleshhound's got a 4-up save. No, 5-up.
5-up.
Oh, okay. Well, but it's majority of 4-up save, but it's still a lot of wounds generally for an army, or it's just a little bit above the average. Around like 100, 120. So it's pretty decent, which is quite nice. I like it. It's fun. I'm just not sold on the Bloodthirsters, but I recognise everyone thinks that they're decent, and they've got more experience than I have with Khorne. So,
Well, also that list, apart from perhaps people maybe not having quite as many crushers, you can imagine most Khorne players would have, some Fleshhounds, some crushers, and a couple of Bloodthirsters. So it is the kind of thing that people could get on the table relatively quickly and have a play around with and see the pure potential of the crushers. So yeah, they're exciting.
They're very exciting. Okay, and then what's the third list that we got going on?
Now, this is one that I came up with a couple of the ideas in the shower yesterday, so who knows whether they're a good idea or not. I've run it past a friend, and they think that there's some play in here.
Okay,
so
good.
This has got more tech in it. So we are calling this one Hold'em Crush'em.
Okay.
So this is from it's a Slaughterhost Reapers of Vengeance this time from Gairan. So we've got a Skullmaster again to make the Crushers battle line. He's Mage Eater, so he gives the Unbind and blows things up. And then he's got the artifact of the Hyper Snare Seeds from Gairan. Then we've got a Slaughter Priest with the Skull Shard Mantle. His Blood Blessing is Blood Sacrifice. Another Slaughter Priest with Bronze Flesh. Slaves, the Darkness Demon Prince with the Mark of Khorne. A Great Bray Shaman.
Yes.
9 Blood Crushers, 6 Blood Crushers, 6 Blood Crushers, 6 Blood Crushers. Blood Thunder Stampede, Wrath Axe, Chronomantic Cogs.
Yeah. This is where I'm at. This is me. This is what I like a lot.
It's techy, right? There's some fun stuff in there to play around with.
Yes, 100%. Like I'm well into it. Please tell us like what everything does and why.
Well, again, I'm not sure exactly how all this would shake down, but so if we start with fundamentally, I see it as a list whereby you want to get those Crusher charges off again. So we've got an allied in Great Bray Shaman who can cast the cogs to give us the +2, so that's fun. We want to get Blood Tithe so that we can be charging in the hero phase. So the Slaughter Priest takes Blood Sacrifice, so he does D3 mortal wounds to a unit, and I'm looking at the unit of 9 again, which can take that amount of more, can take that damage and then also still be above the 6 and be able to get the D3s off. And then there's a fair amount of sort of denial. So it's called Hold'em Crush'em because I can see that the 9 could screen off potentially the whole army. And then we've got 3 units of 6 that sit behind with a Demon Prince using his, I think it's called Gore Slick Ground command ability. So he's halving all the charges. And then we've got the Slaughter Priests. Now, obviously, everyone thinks about those with Blood Boil. So, you've got your D6 Mortals, which is sexy and would potentially come into the game more late on. But I see it for the Blood Bind. So I was thinking about closing the distance between, if you want to get those charges off, obviously pluses to charge are great. But if you can get your opponent closer to you, that's even better. And hence, that's why the Slaughter Priests can both tag team and draw, from Bloodbind is 16-inch range, and then they move D6 towards you. And then the extra little bit of special source is the Great Bray Shaman, whose spell Devolve, once cogs are up, or prior to cogs being up, then you get Devolve off, and I've got the War Scroll here. Casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 18 inches, so a bit longer range than the Slaughter Priests. Your opponent must move that unit up to 2d6 inches so that each model in the unit ends its move as close as possible to a model from the friendly unit that was closer to it at the start of the move. So basically, it's a bit like Raiden, or whatever his name was, from Mortal Kombat, get over here. So you're basically
Scorpion,
reaching out.
Obviously Scorpion.
There we go. That's the one.
Yep.
Sorry. I knew what he said. It's the guy in yellow and black, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'd paint him up like that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be so cool. Get over here. You're dead. Yeah, I'm well into that. That's great.
So basically we're reaching out from behind our 9 Blood Crusher screen, and we're drawing things towards us. If that's at the point, if people want to, if people are trying to charge and hit and kill our stuff, then we've got the Demon Prince to shut that down. So I just think I've never played this list. It just throws together a few fun ideas and has a nice bit of denial mixed in there. And then once you've got them in place, I think one of the key things that we've looked at, which is a problem, is that once we've hit, then the crushers don't really do much in combat. But if we hit them and we have them where we want them, we've then got D6 mortal wounds from both slaughter priests. We've got a wrath axe to go out there, and then that's going to give us more of the sweet blood tithe we want, just to clear and then go and crush again. So that's the idea.
Yeah, no, I really like it. Thank you also to Sam, who's just joined us on Patreon, which is awesome. New Patreon, fabulous. Also to Doc, you know who you are. You're listening over in Germany, fighting the good fight right now in Germany. Who said some of these shows are really helping him get through working during this time. So that's lovely. So just some of the Patreon people who are out there. So let me tell you about this list and what I love about it. I love the slaughter priests. I would start where you've started. The only thing that I maybe wouldn't do is at this stage commit. I think the ultimate version of the Bloodcrusher list has less Bloodcrushers and it's got everything else that you've got in it. I think I'd lose the Skullmaster because it's 120 points which I'm using just to unlock more Bloodcrushers, and ultimately everything else works. Like the Great Brave Shaman as an ally is great, Slave Starters, Demon Prince great, Slaughter Priest great, and then I'd maybe fill it with other stuff with my remaining points, which has maybe more bodies on the board, or similarly, like I like ever since discovering about being able to use the blood tide to pile in the hero phase. I'm super into it, but I also really like taking this maybe exact setup pretty much, but in Chaos Ascendant maybe. I don't know, like you can kind of do it, but you can kind of not. I think it's best in Khorne the way you've got it with the Brave Shaman, but I think I don't know. I would.
It's Benjamin sent me a list, and I didn't understand it because I haven't really read the Wrath of the Everchosen book. But I think there is some play with putting the Crushers inside Ascendant. But as I say, I don't know it well enough. One thing we didn't touch on, which is another bit of denial, actually, was the reason why the ban is because of the hypersnare. You know what?
Sorry, Owen, we lost you a little bit there. Could you just say that again?
Sorry, man. I was just saying one thing we didn't really cover was the artifact that I'd put on the Skullmaster, which was just another bit of denial sort of tech. Do you know about the hypersnare seeds?
It's from Garan, but please tell us about it.
So I've just got it in front of me. So it's at the end of your opponent's shooting phase. Pick an enemy unit within 8 inches. So it's quite short range. Pick an enemy unit within 8 inches of the bearer that is visible to them and roll a dice. On a 5+, the unit may not charge in the subsequent charge phase. So it's another way of teaming up with the Demon Prince. Not only are your charges halved, but there's the potential for just shutting down that big combat block that wants to pile in and kill your Crushers. So the seeds are quite. I've had them played against me, and when you roll that 5 up, it's wicked. It's, another idea would potentially be getting Be'lakor in there.
Yeah,
as another bit of denial.
Yeah.
So you're kind of That's why it's hold them, crush them. So you're messing with them, trying to hold them off, and then at the right point, in go the lads and blow stuff up.
Yeah, I think that's really worth doing. I think also another version I wrote is they just were in my army, a unit of 9, and I had a bunch of Chaos Ascendant, a bunch of flamers. I had some pink horrors. I had all the crap that no one wants to see when they're. What I really liked about that was that they're just another threat in my army, and because people are having to deal with the flamers, they're having to deal with the horrors. There's a whole bunch of stuff they've got to deal with anyway. It gives me the backup threat as opposed to the focus threat. Does that make sense? Like it's not like the killing unit. It's not.
Yeah. That is the issue with all these lists is there's no reach. But that's fundamental outside of skull cannons. Then that's fundamentally, that's the Khorne book. It isn't a ranged threat book. But I do think that there's. It's not my expertise, but I do think that those mixed demon lists that you've described that give you more play in more phases and don't necessarily put all the onus on the Crushers to do the damage. They're just that extra bit that pushes it over. I get the idea that you can probably set the conditions up much nicer so that when those 9 Crushers go in, conditions are perfect. They're going to surround Archaon, or they're going to surround a Maw Crusher and get all of them, and then you're going to do your 18 mortal wounds. And say
Yeah,
bye-bye.
but at the same time, like I love the idea of getting all of them in one go in some sort of apocalyptic stampede.
Just red mist everywhere.
Just
Boom.
Whippy6, thanks for subscribing, by the way. It would be like the scene in Braveheart, but if they were able to get through the cavalry charge, which would be just amazing. Yeah, like, so there's all sorts of damage that can be done in that impact phase, and obviously one of the ones. So you got all of the Ogre tribes, but also you've got Iron Jaws and all of the Uruk book as well. Rambo Squirrel, thanks for subscribing. What up? Keep up the good work. He's soon to be a true big war player. Oh no. Oh no.
Another one rolling 2s and 2s. Brilliant.
Hey, I know. Hey, too, King Tristan. Hope you're well. Also, chariots as well. Yeah, there's these chariots. There's thank you to Darren who's in the chat, and we are recording a new Darren List Diary show later, which will be fun. None of this our boy nonsense, he says, though. I think he's just talking about bone splitters. Like, Owen, I've really enjoyed reading those, so thanks for doing them. I'm going to put them in the show notes. So you've had one experience with this list so far. Did you find it super difficult, or were you enjoying trying to create conditions for yourself inside the game?
Yeah, that was it. It is because of the base sizes. It does make conditions need to be perfect. It was really good. I mean, playing Tom. He brought his Icebrow Hunter down in my backfield, and I was able to just these crushers just turned around and were like, "What's that behind us?" and just went off wallop and just one-shotted that on the charge. But then we were playing lengthways on a board whereby there was quite a few big pieces of terrain, and he quite cutely went down into almost like a little valley, and that meant that I couldn't get my crushers in. So I think things like choosing a side with the least impactful terrain, and obviously reading the board is probably quite important with these lists. Definitely playing more games, which isn't necessarily going to happen at the moment, but playing more games and just looking at how big a footprint these blocks of crushers have on the board, and then understanding the best balance between potential screens and these hitting units. I think probably when it all shakes down for a kind of well-rounded list, probably 3 units of 6 or maybe a 9 and 2 6s might be where I end up. But I'm painting up a shitload, so I'm going to use them.
Are you painting them different? Because I'm at least going to paint up 9. So I was thinking of painting up a 9 and a 6. I was going to do the 1 9 yellow and another 9 maybe green or something, just to differentiate, but keep maybe the armor color. Not that do the plates different, but the blood letters obviously the same. And the kind of trim the same to try and make it all equal. Are you going to paint them up different, or are you going to keep them all basically the same all over?
I don't know. I'm a bit of a sucker for having like a coherent army, but then not that yours wouldn't be coherent, but do you know what I mean? Like in terms of like having them all look a certain way. But perhaps I could do some sort of markings on them or something. My idea is that I bought some of this the other day, so this is really nice. Brassy Brass, Game Air Brassy Brass.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to be using that. They're going to be sort of, I want them to look like they are, thundering across the battlefield. So they'll be covered in splattered mud and blood, and then they're sort of like a demon engine. So I want them to be all oily and greasy and battered and corroded. So that's the plan. And maybe I might do some form of squad markings, almost like a bit of war paint on the hide, a bit like how farmers mark their cattle. They brand them. So I might do something like that. That's the idea. Almost like they've been spray paint branded or branded with on their rumps to squad mark them. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
No, that sounds really good. I really like that, especially squad markings. That would be really fun. In the chat, Dave Fraser said, "Shame about the tournament shutdown. This sounds like an army which could make a real impact on the meta." And then Mr. Lee says, "Impact meta." And then Oripa said, "Do you think it could crush the competition?" Which is true. Also, Tree Messer has said, "I'm so eager to play some games and try out some new lists, but it's so hard with the current situations." And the current advice from everyone in any health profession is stay at home. I also want to play games. I desperately. I love playing Warhammer. You guys do too as well, and I know that. But stay at home, paint those armies up, build those lists. And one of the things that, if you guys go onto the Honest Wargamer website, I've written a workbook. You guys can go through that workbook and you can do a whole bunch of it is practice stuff at home. Get the table out, put the objectives out where they need to be. Like, how will I deploy with this army? How will I do? I know that's not as good as it can be, but it's in this current time, it's the best we got. So try and turn it into a positive, right? Like, that's what we should be doing. Just constantly do that. And I know it's super boring, and I'm not trying to teach you to suck eggs, and I'm a massive twat. Fine. I just care about you all, and I want you to be safe. So practice your deployment. That's right, Tomb King Tristan. Practice your deployment. Practice your movement. Practice.
Amen.
Practice your
Amen.
ranges. Just practice at home on your own, like against a mirror, whatever you can. Like, yeah.
Against a mirror, what are you going to do? Practice your dance moves.
I mean, yeah, man. Practice your winning dance moves, because if you practice that much, once you've crushed your opponent, be like, this is my win dance. I've been practicing it all.
Maybe get some new catchphrases. There's a guy that I play sometimes called Ralph, and whenever he rolls like really well on dice, he goes big league.
Does he?
So you could practice your
like Darren when he shouts football. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Right. Also, that's what I want from this show. I want a couple of things from this show. Number one, I want everyone to have their own new catchphrase. Yeah, that they say when they roll sixes. I don't know what it's going to be, but I want you to have a catchphrase. I want to be like, chicken dinner. Yeah, that's an easy one, obviously.
That's for all the Zinch players, yeah?
Yeah. So that's what I need. Mia Mouse wants to say woof woof. Power stance. You could power stance every time, but I don't think that's. You could practice your power stance, but I really love the idea that whenever you roll a six or a double six, just be like, Squirrel Sundays. I can't think of one.
You've put yourself on the spot there, Rob, haven't you? There's a thing that I've started doing recently. After playing with Nagash so much and this unlimited power, whenever I roll like that, okay, I've just cast that on a 15. I've got into this habit of like pounding my chest like some kind of silverback gorilla. So like, yeah, he's powering up.
He's powering. Yeah, that works.
It feels great. It feels great.
Moon Tyranny's got one. He says it's hashtag it's Archeon. That's his. Tomb King Tristan's is Boom Shakalaka. I like that one. That one's good. Lee Bromley over on Facebook. Big love. Hope you're well. Thanks for being here. Fantastic says I yell Rob when my own Wargamer dice fail me. Curses! Yeah, that'd be more fun. I would like that also, because already people think we're weird for playing Warhammer anyway. So I want to go to like hotel conventions, and I want people like to be going around, and the servers who are the heroes, any frontline servers currently working, as well as doctors, nurses, mailmen, anyone keeping industry and life alive. You guys are incredible. But when they're bringing around a drink, and then you just hear someone roll a dice and shout, "Fantastic Fours!" You're like, what?
Just lean into it more, man. What did I read the other day? I read the other day that it's like there's nothing sexier or more like impressive than if you're like into your thing and you're passionate and you give no fucks. So I just think that that's taking it to the next level. So yeah, I'm down with that for sure.
Okay, catchphrases, please. Also, if anyone is planning to run any of these lists, has run any of these lists, or is going to, me and Owen would both love to see some pictures. So Honest Wargamer Facebook or Twitter or any of those, you can share them to us, at us. Let us know, because I think that'd be rad for me. So Owen, your hobby plans while in isolation for the next few weeks are going to be painting up some crushers. Anything else?
Yeah, I've kind of gone a bit mental actually the last week. I've got I've got all my crushers and obviously the additional, basically a 2K of corn with a funky realm. They're all going to be Realm of Shadow. So I've got like a test model. I don't know if you can see that very well. So this is like a little test base that I've done.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Realm of Shadow. So I'm going to have these kind of rain-soaked, greeny, bluish kind of rocks to contrast against all the red of the demons. So yeah, 2K, and then I've got Necromunda Gang. I'm doing Lizardmen Blood Bowl, and I might even have a little dabble in some Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to just going to hobby the shit out of this whole situation,
which is good, because as soon as you can play, you'll be like, well, I'm not hobbying for like 6 months, I'm just going to play. Like, I'm going to play Blood Bowl next day, I'm going to play Lord of the Rings next day. Like, there you go, that's making the bet, that's planning, and that's what I know Owen for, planning and good starts.
I've been planning, like you hear about these planners and they've like got, I don't know, 50 kilos of pasta and loads of toilet roll downstairs. I've just got an insane amount of models. That's all I've been planning for. I'll be like as thin as a rake. I'll be like Christian Bale in The Machinist, but I'll have these amazing painted armies. That's the plan.
Yeah, that's mine too. That's mine too. So I'm doing the shows, and we have got some stuff we're announcing over the next few weeks, actually, which is really cool to let you guys know about. But hobby painting, hanging out with you guys, writing lists, and just getting. One of the other things that I'm going to do is if anyone out there is interested, I was going to do a call out now. While you're in isolation, there's Wargamer website. You can write your own rundowns. Owen's written a list and put it on the website, but we haven't written a rundown. So we're looking for people to write some rundowns for us. And if you do happen to write any on a unit or a whole army list in the future, let me know, and I'll read it out on the show. Not the whole thing verbatim, but I'll just be like, I'll put a link to it and stuff, because I'm trying to encourage there to be more written articles on the website, and I don't have time to do it myself. But if anyone else is out there is keen and is a fastidious writer or a good writer, it'd be really cool to have people doing that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think this is a wicked time for us all. Often when you're like churning, trying to get armies ready for tournaments and things, then there's no real time for some of the sort of the other parts of the hobby. So even like, writing a bit of lore about your,
yes.
About your army and letting that feed into your color scheme and things like that. I think, it's a wicked time for us all to dig into all these books that we've got. We could even look at the first 50 pages of all the battle tomes. I mean, I don't even know what's in here.
We can all start playing Path to Glory. Now's our time.
Oh my God. No, we're not going to go that far, Rob. Come on, there are limits.
Oh, damn it.
You mentioned somebody in the chat who I just want to give a quick shout out to, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Because he's fed my sort of corn. Well, one of the people that's fed my corn addiction, which was Mr. Lee, which is Lee Whiteley. I think he's Lee's Mech Shop on Twitter. He lent me an amazing converted corn army and all the books and cards and all the jazz to allow me to, dig into this book and come up with some of these ideas. So I just wanted to give a massive shout out to Lee, wicked hobbyist, and legend for lending me his army. So thanks.
What
Lee.
a legend. Can we also shout out Lee Bromley in the chat, who says, I'm all out of grey shame. I have no unpainted models. What the heck?
Wow.
What the heck? Sort that out. Like,
he needs to get on the interweb.
Yeah, right now. Order some from that Bad Moon place. They seem like all right guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
that would be good. Also, LOV is saying that I should learn Lord of the Rings while I'm in the hobby bunker. If anyone wants to send me a copy of the Lord of the Rings book, then yes, I could potentially be into that. Also, Bombag Mikey, thanks for donating 1,000 bits to the show. That's really nice of you. Thanks, man. That's really cool. That's cool. And also, hello to Trog, who's just joined us live. There's a front half to the battle tomes, says Gitley. Question mark.
I know, man. I was shocked. There's some really good stuff in there as well.
And someone said, does anyone think Jervis just keeps writing Path to Glory just for himself? It's just like him and 3 mates, and they're like, Jervis, make sure you keep doing Path to Glory. It's like, yeah, no worries. I've got this. Like, they'll never know. I'm really into that. Bumbag Mikey, really appreciate your bits donation. Thank you. Path to Glory is if the quarantine passes in 6 months. Okay. Okay. So 6 months time, I promise you, if the quarantine hasn't passed, we're doing Path to Glory on the Wargamer. That's right.
I'll believe it when I see
also,
it.
Also, rundowns on fire bellies. That's and Sircon, who was asking whether or not I play Lord of the Rings. I haven't. I'd like to play it. Maybe I have some time to learn it. It would be cool. Is there any good? I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe there's some good tutorials online to learn it, how to play it. I'm sure some.
There are. Yeah.
I'm sure someone's done one.
Research.
Oh, is there some good ones?
Yeah, there's some bits on there. I'll send you a link to a couple.
Is it called the Hobbit Hole? I will only accept it if it's called the Hobbit Hole or something similar.
I'll set it up now.
And I'll only accept a tutorial video about Lord of the Rings if it starts with like that intro bit where he's talking about like it was one small step, like on his journey. Like they don't.
What, Neil Armstrong?
What's the? Oh, I look terrible now. But the quote from Lord of the Rings where he talks about like a little small adventure or whatever the fuck he was saying.
think I know what you mean.
Oh,
I haven't.
God.
It's been a while.
Yeah, okay.
We're definitely not a Lord of the Rings stream, are we? Jesus, don't even know any of the words.
I've seen it loads of times, still don't know. I'm going on an adventure, thank you, written in capitals in the chat, because we're clearly mental.
God.
Right, I mean, it's funny thing going out your door. That's what he says, Jimmy Tennant. It's something like that. Like, and if it doesn't start with that, I'm not watching it. I just want you to know. So they've got 10 seconds to impress me, which is not fair because the first 10 seconds of every one of my shows is a fucking train wreck. So on my own criteria, I failed. Okay, so Owen, thanks for being on the show and talking to me.
Thanks, man. It's been really good fun. Yeah, it's cool.
Talking about I hope everyone in London stays safe. I hope you stay safe, and just everyone who's listening or watches or anything, as well as everyone who doesn't. So just all people, apart from that one guy. Fuck that guy. But everyone else, fine. Yeah.
Yeah, screw the guy with all the toilet paper.
That one fucking guy. Fuck that guy. Yeah. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's been watching live. You guys are ace. Join me again tomorrow. We've got more show. More Hunker in the Bunker, day 5 tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. If you're listening to the podcast, stay hydrated, wash your hands, stay safe, fruit and veg, get some sunlight, just be happy. Take some moments to contemplate life, maybe. Probably not. Well, I don't do that. And then painting tutorials, not of my face, makeup tutorials coming soon. And thank you again to everyone who's jumped onto the Wargamer Patreon. Incredible people. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. Now, all the information we talked about will be in the show notes below. And that's it. Join us tomorrow. Have a great day, whatever you're doing. Thanks for joining us live. Jimmy 1080 Whippy Sticks, Gitley. And we'll see you soon. I don't have any final thoughts. You got any final thoughts, Owen?
Just, everyone just needs to be excellent to each other, and then everything will be all right.
Agreed. Let's do it. Let's all just have a great time. All right. You guys have a great day. We'll see you all soon. Goodbye.